Hi everybody, it's Peter Stockdale, the host of the Spin Market Report. Are you looking for a new place to advertise your business? With over 85,000 YouTube impressions and 20,000 total streams across all platforms in the last 12 months, the Spin Market Podcast Network could be the prime space you've been looking for to advertise your business. Get a hold of Spin Market today and see what advertising on a podcast can do for you. Visit www.spinmarketwith2ks.com or email digitalagent@spinmarket.com for more information.
It's the Spin Market Report. Here's your host, Peter Stockdale.
Hey, it's the Spin Market Report. We are back. I'm sitting down with Jackie Haley. Jackie, you're originally from Fort Dodge?
I am. I graduated in 98.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Just a minute ago.
Well, I guess, yeah, well, that's one of those things when you think about it, you're like, I guess it was a little while ago.
The fact that I have a 17-year-old now is just beyond me. The last year I lived here wasn't when I was 17 myself. So it was a little bit, yeah.
Wow.
It ages me a little bit. Maybe we can cut that out. No, just kidding.
Well, you are an author originally from Fort Dodge, which is really cool.
Yes, thank you.
I looked up a little bit about you. Dream to Author is the website.
Yes.
And that's your website. That's your company. That's your baby.
It is. It came from a lot of questions that I had when I went through my first experience, and trying to help people through their first writing experience is much needed. And there's a lot out there today versus back over 15 years ago when I was writing my first book. However, you have to watch out again for people that are trying to just take your money.
Yeah,
and
just
so
get
we're
an
here
easy
to
buck.
help. Yeah. So we're here to provide those resources and things that I didn't get when I was writing my first book. I had no idea what I was doing. Now, knowing what I know now, it's been super helpful, and being able to see people have a success story and writing their own book and publishing it, that's been super fulfilling. So
Absolutely. So what inspired you to become an author? What inspired you to write your first book?
yeah, thank you for asking. Actually, funny story. When we were family planning, back in the day, we wanted to build our house. It was during the 2008 housing crisis. So we're like, we better get our house in the market and get that, because we don't know how long it's going to be out there during that time. And I was pregnant at the time, and lo and behold, our house sold in record time. It sold like in less than a month. And so we were like, oh, I guess we are building now. Mm-hmm. And so fast forward a few months, I am living in my wonderful in-laws basement, beautiful basement, but it's a basement of my in-laws with a 16-month-old and a 2-month-old.
Oh, wow.
So form of therapy was needed. Either I was going to drink too much wine or something. So I needed to do something. I started writing. I just got into a story. I got into a character. I started writing. I really, truly enjoyed the process. I used to write in childhood, a long time ago. But I really got into the story. One page turned into 25, turned into 147 pages. And from that, we had another friend that was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Her and I had sons that are 4 months apart. So she was my inspiration, where I said, you know what, I'm going to name the main character after my friend.
Oh, nice.
And I am going to get this published. No matter what, I'm going to get it done. That was my turning point. That was the moment where I said, this is going to happen. And I think everybody needs that kind of motivation. They need to have a reason. They need to have that motivation to commit. And that's when that came about. So we were going to do a book launch party in conjunction with her 40th birthday. Unfortunately, she was a few months shy of that she joined our Heavenly Father. So we did a fundraiser in her memory, and we raised over $1,000. So it was really, was fulfilling. But that's really what kickstarted the first book.
Oh, that's nice. That's a really nice story. You mentioned when authors try to write their first book, maybe they don't know how to get started, or the publishing aspect of it all can be kind of daunting. What kind of challenges did you face? Did the words just pour out and you basically, before you knew it, you had a book and then you were just like, well, let's just call a publisher and here we go? Or what were the challenges?
That was probably my first thought process, which is why I had so many mistakes. But yeah, I mean, I wrote the story, but I had no idea. I just let creativity take me somewhere. I let the characters evolve and took it through an entire story. And when I got done, I had no one in my family, no one I knew wrote a book, had any kind of experience, was not in the industry. I was a nobody. I had my own job. It was not writing, and I knew nothing about it. So when it got to that point, the challenges were, how do I make this work? I knew I needed someone that knew what they were talking about. So I hired an editor. And today she is actually helping me out with Dream to Author. She has over 35 million in print across the world herself for books. She's written and published over 120 books. I knew what she had was knowledge. She had what I needed, and she absolutely tore that manuscript apart.
Oh, no.
Bit by bit.
That's gut-wrenching, isn't it?
It was a total hit to the ego, and I'm like, wow, this is terrible. But what I did was I got to work. I said, took one problem at a time until that book was finalized. And once I got through that process with the editor, I got an endorsement from the largest newspaper, Des Moines Register. So that was what made editing worth it for me.
So you had mentioned that you had a friend of yours that was kind of one of your influences for at least naming a character. Can you name some of your other influences or some of your other inspirations for writing a book? Because I'm sure it wasn't just boredom. You had to draw inspiration from somewhere to get a character and a story out. Well,
I read Stephanie Meyer. I absolutely I love Jane Austen, James Patterson, John Grisham. I love the thrillers, the suspense that it brings, and things like that. So those are authors that are inspiring to me. The last couple years when I've been on a plane, I haven't taken a trip without seeing someone with a Colleen Hoover book. Mm-hmm. So those are inspirations as far as their book, their quality of writing. I think at that moment when I was reading and started writing, Stephanie Meyer, she has this very, very thick Twilight series books, and I enjoyed it. I'm not like a huge what do they call it, Team Jacob or anything like that. Yeah. but they were truly inspiring. They were good quality stories. The way she wrote, the way she described, she unfolded the scenes, the way she described the characters. Those are the moments where I'm like, I can do this. This is great. And you really connect. And if there was anything that I can teach people out there about writing their own story, it's about the reader. Okay. If they can connect with the reader, then they're going to be a successful author.
All right. Well, that'd be like, it's right into the next question I actually have. So like advice, like if you had somebody that would just came up to you, like imagine I came up to you right now and was just like, I kind of want to write a book. I don't need a pile of help. I just need somebody to point me and push me just to start out. What would be the quickest, best advice you could give somebody just right off the top of your head for that?
It's about the reader. Yep. Absolutely. So when you are writing, even if it's a memoir, if it's about your story and your life, if you are writing it for your family, if you're writing it or if you're writing a book to grow your business, you have to put your step into their shoes. What are they expecting? What do they need? What can they connect with that you can bring them to the table? That's what's going to make them go, I'm going to not only invest my time in purchasing this book, I'm going to invest the hours to write it or read that book and grab the value from it. So if you can do that, then you're going to have a success.
Yeah, you had mentioned writing a book for your business. I think that was something we had talked about before this episode was, I think you said Forbes had named it in like 2024. It was like the number one way for a business to gain extra exposure or something.
It is. It was the tool for business branding. Yes.
That's what it was. Yeah.
And I got to hand it to, Spin Market, you guys have done such an amazing job marketing your businesses, your clients, taking care of them, and it's speaking volumes. And so I'm really appreciative of the opportunity, but you guys understand the value of that marketing and that branding out there. Absolutely. So adding a book is it's an added tool you've got to have the social media, you've got to have the branding in certain ways, but the book has been a tool that's been added a lot more. Prior to COVID, we had approximately 400,000 titles published annually.
Okay.
Since then, we've had this explosion in entrepreneurs, right? And businesses. Now we are in the millions. Millions of titles are published every year.
Every year.
Why is that? Because they're not only getting information from books, people are out there buying it. That's one of the misconceptions. Be like, are people reading books anymore? Yes, they are.
Yes.
It is happening. And they're using it to expand their business. It's an added, more detailed business card. It is growing business. In fact, my third book that I published, I invested to publish that. I had an offer from a publishing company. I got my return 3 months after that release. Financially, got the return, and then some. And my book wasn't even about my business.
Oh, wow.
So, which I'm releasing one now about my business this month. So I'm very excited about that.
What resonates well with the public, if you're writing about your business, is hearing the good, the bad about your business. They want to hear all of that.
Real.
They want the real thing, and they want to be able to relate to that. So that's why it's so popular.
And I think you get that too, Cheryl, when you're out there handling clients and helping them market their business and get out there. They need real. They need truth. That's what's going to help clients go, okay, I trust you guys.
It's not going to happen overnight.
Hey, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to say that a testament to that would also be like, it's tougher to get the real out there in a short form post, like say social media. You only have a paragraph. How much can you actually say in a paragraph when you finally have, well, I need to get the marketing and the branding, and I need to say what this is for and how much it costs or where you can, and then by the time it's over with, how many times have we all looked at a Facebook post that's 14 paragraphs long and we're just like, I'm not reading it. But how many of us would willingly pick up a book and read hundreds and hundreds of paragraphs willingly, So this is like one of those long form things that
It is.
if we need to, we can also chop it up and say like, this is the best parts out of these chapters. Oh, you want to know more about this? Go to chapter 14, so you can catalog it in a way that, could organize it for people.
And I think that's a fundamental difference between, again, stepping into the audience, right? If the audience is out there to learn something, they've got that chapter outline in the book and go, okay, I want to learn about marketing, that's chapter 7. Or I want to learn about editing, that's chapter 3. If they're reading a book like a Colleen Hoover to like, this is The End of Us or something, that one of her titles, they're reading that for entertainment. They're going to go from start to finish. They want to get engaged right from page 1. But that's a difference between business books like nonfiction and fiction and what you're really reading them for. So
Absolutely. So let's talk about some of your books now. Like, how many books have you published? Let me ask you that.
it'll be 4 this week.
Nice. This week.
We are releasing Write a Book, Let's Get It Done. And it is truly a how-to, go-to, task-oriented. Let's get your book done. Let's put author behind your name before the next year. And you can be accomplished and write a book, not only a book and your story, but a book that sells. And that's one of the things that we want to make sure that they're grasping. Once they get that, I'm hoping that they will see the value and see that they can do this and then move forward with their own book. So that's my 4th.
That's awesome. That's coming out this week.
Yes.
As we're recording this. So by the time this episode comes out, I should hopefully have a link down below for you guys to just be able to click on it and go buy it if you want to. So let's go through some of your other books. Like, what inspired each of them, or what's the general concept of each book about?
Absolutely. My first book was it's a fiction. The Des Moines Register, as I mentioned, characterized as kind of girl next door stumbles into a James Bond movie.
Oh, cool.
It was Russian mafia, smuggling diamonds, mystery, everything I did not do in my day job. So I had a lot of fun with that because it was just another world, right? It was that outlet. I began to get a following after that first book. So I had people asking, did this girl really die? What happened? Blah, blah, blah. So I did release the sequel years later, and that's True Silence. So that is a sequel to Crystal Beach, the first book. So
that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah. The next question I have is, what genres do you enjoy writing? It sounds like you write a lot of different genres.
I do. I have covered this. This is pretty much a full gamut because the first 2 are fiction. The third one is called Brenda's Wish. It's narrative nonfiction. I had a family approach me to write a book about Brenda Schmitz, and she's an Iowan woman that passed away from ovarian cancer. Before she passed, she wrote a letter and gave it to a friend. She said, when my husband finds a new wife, like I asked, to take care of our 4 boys, I want you to send this into the Christmas Wish radio station program. So 2 years.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was all
Yes.
over. It was worldwide visibility. The interview on the radio has 4.6 million views.
Yeah.
And we had the husband, David Schmitz, he had 440 media contacts reach out to him through that radio station. Wow. After that aired. Yes, it was crazy. So he later, he didn't answer any of those media except for one local station. And years later, he decided, okay, I'm ready for the book. And he contacted me and gave me the story. And it's been an amazing ride. It was one of the biggest challenges because in nonfiction and writing about another person you have not met before it takes a lot of responsibility. And you want to make sure not only is it accurate, but it's doing it justice as far as her personality, how she was and everything. So I spent an exorbitant amount of time on that story, but it was very fulfilling. It's faith-based, it is inspirational, and it builds awareness for ovarian cancer. So
Absolutely. That's great. So those are the 4 books in a nutshell.
yes.
That makes me think, how do you balance it all? Your creativity with the discipline to actually write the book. I'm thinking like as a musician, it's easy to just pick up your instrument and noodle around, or as like an artist, it's easy to just doodle something, but it's kind of difficult to actually maybe create a song or an actual painting and, start to finish. It's not always easy. So how do you balance those two?
You don't really. You just kind of throw them all up in the air and make sure and try not to have anything fall. But I mean, as a fellow creative, you want to go do this over here, and then you want to go over here and do this, and you find what inspires you and kind of handle it in the moment. I think it's been a lot of fun. It's been really cool to see people with their own stories come out, because after we started Dream to Author, I see people coming in and they're like, how do I do this? How do I go over here and then do that? And just putting a little bit of organization and helping them find their message. Once they clear and they start, that path gets a lot easier. And so it's been, I don't know, it's been a lot of fun, but I've never been one to just do one thing I got to do this and then I got to do this and this. So
I had
it fits me.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's one thing I don't know if I want to consider myself a creative like you are, because I just kind of noodle around in town and play music in bars, and you're actually writing books that lots of people are reading. So I don't know if it's quite the same thing.
I'm jealous because I wish I could play the guitar, piano, or anything. That would be the coolest.
Well, let's just trade. I'll just try my hand at writing for a while.
Perfect.
So how about like writing engaging storyline? Like, do you know when you're writing, like, let's say your fiction books, did you know that this was going to be engaging for the reader? I know you said that was something that kind of had to be in the front of your mind, but when you first started, you're like, oh, this story is gold. Everyone's going to love it. Or like, how do you know?
You don't really until you do. I mean, my first experience was very different in the fact that I was just writing to write. I had no intention of writing a book. I was just writing about a character, and I thought this would be fun. We'll see how far it goes. And I specifically remember exceeding 100 pages going, I'm spending a lot of time on this. I love it. I enjoy it, but should this be something more? But that is, I don't know. It's just one of those things that I think everybody has their own unique experience. Some people do it with a mission in mind. Some people go, I'm doing it. I got this plan. I'm going to go forward. And so they start that way. Other people don't have that intention right off the bat. Or other people have, I'm going to write a book or write a story about my family and write it just for my family members. And it turns into this big inspiring and motivational book that they want to start a speaker platform on. Things change, and that's part of that creativity, right? It can change, it can alter. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's fabulous because we get to reach our potential that way when we have that freedom.
I mean, that
might be a roundabout way of answering the question. I don't know if I answered that well enough.
No, I like it. I like it a lot because somebody had recently said, you kind of have to have goals, or they told me like you kind of have to have goals to kind of have an aim towards something, but you can't let your goals just pigeonhole everything.
Yeah.
Your goals can change and move. It should always be a moving target because otherwise you're just, oh, I did it and I'm done. So you should always have goals that would change or morph over time. So let's kind of talk a little bit about. I do have something in here. Do you have a favorite book you've written, or I hate to make you choose one out of the four, or is there like a project that you've worked on, maybe not even one of your books, that kind of holds a special place in your heart?
There are so many. I mean, we've actually helped hundreds of writers in 7 different countries and over 15 states here in the U.S. Move forward with their books. It's hard to. They're all special in their own way, and. It's been probably one of the most fulfilling things is to hear these different stories come about. One in particular, if I had to choose one, would probably be Moving Mountains with God by our former Congressman Jim Ross Lightfoot.
Okay.
He was a client of mine and still is to this day. We're friends. He emails me weekly. I love that guy. He's so great. Lives in Texas now, but he wrote his memoir, and it was to really bring back, the change, the landscape on the federal level, and how it's changed over the years, and what we need to remember, and to keep the faith. And I love that the learning lessons that he had throughout his life. He is 86 years old now, and so he's got a wealth of knowledge in what he's experienced. I mean, he went through the farming crisis. He was in Washington, D.C. during that time, and he was representing Iowa. So that was a big conflict. That was a tough time for a lot of people. So to be able to share those stories and go, we went through these struggles, but we made it and we got through. And so those are the inspiring stories that really stand out, that I hold close. If it was one of my books, I suppose the first book, I think they all hold something near and dear to my heart, but the first book was always, that for the first time when you hold, baby. Yeah. When you hold your first book with your name on it, that's a surreal feeling. So that would be one of my favorites.
It's got to be very special.
Yeah.
You had mentioned some of these other books for people that I don't want to say like you're helping them write them, but you're kind of guiding them through this. And that's kind of my take on what Dream to Author is. How would you put it in your own words? Like, what is Dream to Author, and what inspired you to start it, or why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, part of it was I had no idea what I was doing when I was writing my first book. But at Dream to Author, the goal is to help people write, publish, and market their first book. And so we're going through the basics. We're tackling those 3 biggest obstacles: the lack of confidence. Who would want to read what I have to say? Lack of time. I mean, I've got current congressmen on my client list, speakers, high-profile speakers, former congressmen, business owners, people that really, stay-at-home moms that have kids that they do not have time to comb their own hair. They want to write a book. We want to find that time for them. We want to make sure that they can get it done no matter what, because the writing process does have a start. It does have an end to it. Mm-hmm. Once you get it done, and you can share it and share it again and share it again, and that's the big part. But that is the goal, is to help people realize they can do it. People will want to read what they have to write if they have a message that's unique. It is a unique message because it's theirs. No one has their perspective but them. And then lack of time, lack of knowledge, lack of confidence. So getting started, getting those components in there. If you're writing a fiction novel, let's go through the story arc. Let's develop those characters organically. Let's connect with our reader. We want to get them through those basics, and that's a huge part. And once they get it, once they start the ball rolling. I have a client that I'm working with at the Pentagon. I think we were just talking about. He's like, I have so many stories, they're all over the place. So we honed in on the beginning of his story and the relevancy of the message. And I said, every chapter, everything that you have, make sure it's relevant to your main message. You want to take that reader on a journey. Mm-hmm. You want them to experience what you're experiencing. And that's what makes that book connecting for the reader and successful.
Yeah, you had mentioned kind of bolstering people's confidence, realigning it in some capacity. I mean, this is something I've thought forever, and I can now say that I know this is a fact,
Yes.
that everybody goes through this.
Yeah.
And that's why I have all these half-written doodly bits of songs down. And that's no different than, like I said, with the artist kind of just napkin drawing, or like, I'm sure you've seen it. Somebody, they have 2 or 3 pages of amazing writing, and they're like, I don't know where to go from here.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is great, though.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things about this, is you have the ability to kind of help point and push people. Like, let's just kind of try this out, or like, let's see what happens here, and you have the ability, since you've been through the process before, to kind of realign how people think about their own work, which is honestly very important.
Well, and the accountability part of it is a big help. I think we're providing a good service in that way. But these guys, like you said, they have their own creativity, their own message, their own moment of inspiration that they can offer to so many. So I'm just providing the framework to get them to share that amazing message. And I'm just kind of a vehicle to help them move forward with it, which is fun.
So what are some other ways you help these aspiring writers achieve their goals? Does it depend on the goal the writer has too?
It has to.
Okay.
At Dream to Author, us in particular, we are working, and you work with a variety of people. You need to be able to customize to what their needs are. So I have a congressman right now. Hey, guess what? The inaugurations. We're not going to talk right now.
Yeah.
We're going to wait. Some of these people need time now, or they have deadlines. I had another one writing on a sports season. I said, well, you need to release by this date, because next sports season, whatever sport that may be, it's going to be old news. So you've got to publish and get ready for, so there are certain timeframes that you have to work with clients on. But I think we shine in that part, and holding them accountable, going, okay, you've got these goals, you've got the message, you're connecting with the reader. That's our goal. We want to hook the reader in and make it worthwhile for them.
Absolutely. So misconceptions are something else that I always think a lot about. Like, what are some common misconceptions people might have about writing a book, or publishing a book even? Because I feel like it's that lack of confidence. Nobody's going to want to read this. That's the thing that for some reason is hitting home with me. But what are some other misconceptions people might have?
We've heard people go, oh, do people read books anymore? And we've talked about that a little bit, but they're the audio books. In fact, I'm going back on NBC in February 26th to talk about audiobooks, because that is the medium that is increasing exponentially. It's the highest increase in version of books. People are multitasking every day. It's a bullet point society, right? We want to know the points and get to it and move to our next meeting, move to our next thing. So audiobooks, they can listen while they're doing something else or driving or something.
That makes me think, people used to be like, well, that's not actually reading. But then for how many years was storytelling the preferred and only method to transfer a story from one person to another?
It is.
So
it is.
It's not like it's cheating in any way to listen to an audiobook.
Yeah. It's not. They're getting the full effect, and they're able to do what they need to do in the daytime if it's driving or whatever. The other misconception is, they wonder, can I get published? But we've had this, of course, explosion since COVID of the self-publishing companies. There are so many out there that can provide. Now, with that great expansion have come scammers. And so we have to watch those. And now we are watching AI, which I'm sure you guys, this is affecting your business. This is a multi-industry change. This is a revolutionary thing that we are dealing with right now. So a client of mine, a good friend of mine, had a book he published, and he's a high-profile speaker. He found his book online. It was reproduced by an AI company and sold. And so now we have to watch out for those things. But publishing, really, you can get published much easier. It's the marketing now that is the more difficult thing to do, and that's where you guys come into play, right? Right.
Absolutely.
Oh, what a segue there.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Yes. So we getting that marketing out, branding, things like that. Everybody is being inundated by all of these new things, and so how do we stand out? And that's why we need companies like yours to be able to do that, to help share the message, because it is a worthy message.
So what about some success stories? I had went through your website. I found some testimonials that people had on there, some little stories that you had about, this is this person, they wrote this book. Do you have any, like, let's say, success stories that kind of jump out at you of people that you've helped through Dream to Author?
The most recent one is last week. I was talking to this wonderful lady, Dr. Culver, in London. She's like, well, because we have reconstructed her first 5 pages, her main message, her first 5 pages of her book. So it's a leadership book. That's all I'm going to say about it. But what she did was she used the first 5 pages that we had worked together, and she formalized it. And she's like, I used it for my pitch. She goes, I got 5 new clients.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
I was like, that's amazing.
Isn't that? Wow,
yes.
that's
And
cool.
it just takes that little bit of organization. She has so much to offer, and her book is going to be amazing. But to see that quickly, I was like, yes, that's what we're looking for. So,
Well, at least you know what's in the book works.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
it definitely
yes.
works. So,
and it's about their message, and it's about the connection.
absolutely. So let's say, for example, I came up to you and I said, I've got this nice, like little 5-page story started. What can you do to help me? Maybe just, what resources can you offer, at least maybe through like a Dream to Author, or just some advice? I'd key in on
Absolutely.
Dream to Author. Like,
Yeah.
what are some of the things you can offer people just to start out?
So at Dream to Author, actually, for the people that are just trying to get that initial information, I want to see if I can do this. We have a free 5-day training series. So I'm online live 5 days in a row at noon, starting February 24th. And we go through mindset. We go through story structure, starting your story with a hook. What does that look like? What are publishers looking for? So a lot of those tasks that you want to have in the very beginning, we tackle those big obstacles right off the bat, because that is really the foundation. If we don't get that right in the beginning, if you don't get that right as a new author or new writer, you're going to struggle through the process. And so we tackle that right away. But that's a free offering. That's a great way to get some information, figure out what the framework of your story should be, and how to move forward.
Let's say somebody's a tiny bit more advanced than that. Let's say
Yes.
they want something a little bit more than that. What's the next level of things you can offer to somebody?
We have several programs. We have workshops. I have 2 signature programs. One, our author creation project. That's really our flagship program. It takes somebody from book idea to successful published author within 12 months. Whoa. And we cover all of that. We have everything involved in that. We need to talk about your marketing services within that program, because it really is the priority for marketing your book once you get it written is huge. But we go through, we help them write it. We have 6 months of coaching. We have online self-paced lessons, but they're tangible action items that I'm a very task list oriented person that you know exactly what you need to do. Our goal is to set a clear path to writing your story. So we help them write it. As far as coaching them through the process, we help them with the publishing process. We talk about the pros and cons of traditional publishers versus hybrid publishers versus self-publishing. What does that look like? What are the costs involved? Are there costs involved? And then we get them in touch with the marketing firm as well. So we have publishers, we have marketers that meet with them, as well as we have professional editing services with that program. It's all inclusive.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I do remember seeing a fair amount of this stuff right there on your website.
Yes.
Nice, easy to, it's easy to see all the information. It's easy to access what you need to. So there's a link down below for that. Don't worry though, we're not done. So what about the biggest challenges facing authors today? Maybe a first-time author. You had mentioned, sometimes the publishing aspect of it all could be a bit daunting, especially with how it's changed in the last 20 years. Or, I was going to ask you, like off camera, like AI is kind of making things goofy, as you mentioned here, even. So what are some of the biggest challenges that these people are facing that maybe they don't know they're going to be facing?
AI is one issue. It can be a resource, but it also can be a risk. So we have to manage that right now. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people, when we talk about publishing or marketing or even writing, there's a glassing over on the eyes going, I don't even know what you're talking about. We want to simplify that to make sure that they understand and what that really means and how to be successful. Some of the challenges are if they don't have a platform, if they don't have a Facebook account, or if they don't have a LinkedIn or something where they have some kind of outreach to their target audience. A lot of the people that I am visiting with, most of them do. They have a speaker platform. They're trying to increase their business visibility, or they've had this fiction novel idea in the back of their mind for 20 years, and they want to do it for fun. Now they're retired and they can do that. Those are the things. As long as we can find their target audience and get in front of them and showcase, they're going to have that success. But it's that path can be a challenge. That is a path. That's a challenge. That's probably the biggest one. Writing the book itself, it's just a matter of organizing their message or finding their storyline and getting those components. You want that exposition, you want that rising action, you want the climax. It needs to be unpredictable, and you want that falling action and resolution. Some people, I just talked to a gentleman last week, actually in Iowa, and he was like, well, I had a fiction story in mind. He goes, he said, I want to do it about Duluth, Minnesota, and just a story about these people that live on the lake. And I said, well, do you have the story structure? He said, well, I had a mystery in chapter 1, but I solved it in chapter 2.
Oh, wow.
So and that's okay,
Yeah.
but we might need to massage that a little bit differently and take those components in. But those are some of the challenges, is just placing where to put things, how to make it a journey. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds me of like when I think every kid kind of to some extent wrote little stories and stuff like that. And that'd be like kind of like, sounds like one of the stories I would write. Like on the first page, it's just like, this is cool. And then it ends in 3 sentences on this next page. And I'm like, well, that's the end of that story. Yep. So, I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy to have an idea and follow it through to the end, and that's one of the reasons you're here with, this is such an important thing because things have changed. The next question I have is about publishing. So like, generally speaking, when I like looked up once, if I wanted to publish a book, how do I do it? It's like, well, you got to basically like write one and then send some sort of a treatment to shop it around to publishers. And then maybe they'll be like, well, send me a full chapter, or maybe send me the whole book, or what's your rough draft look like? It's not like that anymore, is it? How has things changed? Because there's self-publishing now?
Yes and no to that, actually. You can still submit to traditional publishers, and that's the same process. You need to make sure that, traditional publishing, you need to have a literary agent. So you have to find a literary agent. You have to find someone that's, I know, it gets detailed.
This is where my eyes are glossed over now.
That's why this book that's coming out this week is going to be huge benefit, because we're going through those plus the pros and cons of each of those stages. So you can actually see what it is. And that book is going to be updated because of the changes that we have in AI, what they're offering, self-publishing, what that's offering, and traditional publishers. Everybody's evolving to work with the times and the volume of the number of authors that are coming out. But yes, traditional publishers are kind of like they were the old gatekeepers, right? Yeah. And they're still there. Okay. But if we don't have a literary agent, then we can go with these other routes. Okay. And so a hybrid publisher is more like a partnership with the publishing company and the author, and you're both investing. Okay. The traditional publisher generally will have an advance to the author for royalties. And so they'll offer money to the author. Hybrid, you're both putting money in. Self-publishing, you're buying it, you're purchasing that yourself. Okay. That's 100% on you. Now, when we talk about marketing, if we're talking about traditional, they've got a lot of platform to work with for marketing your book. If you're doing hybrid, it's more of a partnership. If you're, they're going to do some things, you're going to do some things. In fact, my narrative nonfiction, I had a small press publisher, which falls into kind of the hybrid publisher format, where they submitted my book for me to some book contests, which I did not do. I didn't have to do that for that one, but I did for some of the self-publishing. But I've gotten awards for my books, so that's been amazing. Self-publishing, again, it's all on your own as far as marketing your book. So it really depends on what your priorities are, where you need the help, and what you can invest in to get that moving forward. That's
such a great answer to broad stroke the differences between the two of, or the 3 different options. I'm sure you can kind of meet somewhere in the middle on all of those. Yeah. It reminds me a lot of kind of how the music industry changed. There used to be only be like this
Right.
many record companies and you had to be in good with them, but they were, they were going to possibly take a cut of it or only give you this much for certain, so it's this weird thing where like that's kind of changed, just like
Yes.
book writing and publishing. So it's really interesting. I guess I didn't really know it was that, involved, at least nowadays, or I didn't really know kind of how it all was structured, but that's a great way to broad stroke it. I'd be kind of interesting to read this book to see, what the more, nuts and bolts differences are between
Yeah.
everything,
And it's ever changing. I mean, I just did a Fox News interview down in Arizona about the AI aspect in publishing too, and what to watch out for. So there are some red flags, but there are also, like any industry, there are a lot of different moving pieces. But our goal is to just find the path that works for the client. Much like you guys with your marketing, you want to find the path to reach their core target audience, right? It's very similar.
Yeah. I had a question down here that said, what role do you think marketing and branding plays in an author's success? And I kind of wrote that down like, but like we're 20 or 30 minutes into this and it's like, well, it plays a huge part,
Yes.
If you wrote a book, it could be the greatest book ever written, but if you made 2 copies and they're both sitting, in your house, nobody's ever going to see them or read them. Or if you don't tell anyone you wrote a book, how are they going to know?
It's so true. And there are some books out there that are absolutely amazing and they don't get the visibility. But there are other books that are on this New York Times bestseller list that I'm going, really?
Yeah.
I mean, there are some where we're questioning where we're at on that level. So it really, marketing plays a big role in how you do that. So if you have a good marketer and you have a good book, you are set up for success. But getting the help through marketing and getting the help to get that book into a final good piece that people can connect with and get value from is really the key to success.
Yeah, I bet there's a lot of writers that want to get on that New York Times bestseller
Oh,
list,
yes.
but at the same time, like there's some weird caveats to get on there. I know that some people have kind of nudged their own books towards the list in some capacity or another.
They do. I mean, it's a big player. It still is a big player. I
for
mean, they're
sure.
announcing things on the Today Show and everything. Jenna Bush is actually starting a new publishing company, just a caveat on the side, which I'm a big Jenna Bush fan.
Cool.
She was on the Today Show. Anyway, but the New York Times bestseller list, if you look at that list at any given day, generally traditional publishers are dominating that list. I don't see any hybrid publishers really that are, if they're smaller names, it's probably because they're an imprint of that traditional publisher.
Okay.
So like, for example, Random House, Jenna Bush is going to have her own imprint under Random House, which is a traditional, one of the 5 traditional publishers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what about, you had mentioned you kind of got to have a place to gain some feedback, or at least like a sounding board, a place to kind of, like whether it be social media or something like that. How do you manage the feedback? Well, because it's not all going to be positive. So
Yes.
that's one thing that I'm probably the weakest at is any sort of negative feedback. It just smashes me like glass in a hammer. And I'm just like, all right, now I'm in a million pieces. Somebody put me back together. Like, how do you manage, from readers or critics, or how do you manage positive and or negative feedback?
I'm always humbled by the positive feedback. If I get negative feedback, I have to take into account, just like we all do every day on social media. Oh, you don't get enough likes on a post, or you don't get this, or someone was mad that day and wrote a comment that was a nasty comment or something. You just take it with a grain of salt. But you have to be, at first I have fairly thin skin. And so it took a lot, but once I realized, oh, okay, I've got this. You know what your product is. If you believe in your product and believe in your story, really, people can have different reactions. It's going to be okay either way.
Yeah.
But when you have the help to go and you have that following, and you can see there are people that are really influenced, there are people that are really finding value in what you have to say, that's what you need to focus on. That's what I encourage all of my writers to focus on, is where you're making the best impact. Your book is not for everybody. Mm-hmm. Just like whatever we create, it's not for everybody. It's for your target audience.
True.
So if you get that negative, it's just because that person's not meant for your audience. It's not meant for your book. And that's okay.
And you bring up a really good point in that, because we'll have clients come in and we'll say, well, what's your market? Well, everybody's my market.
Yeah, that's
It's not. It's not. So you need to hone in on that market so you get the biggest bang for your buck when you're spending it on the marketing end.
You know, you were mentioning misconceptions, and I think that's a great one to bring up, Cheryl, is because people often say, well, I want to write this motivational story or this story about my life and motivate others, and it's for everybody. Well, no, you have to, the more you can hone in on that target audience, the clearer you can speak to that audience member, and the more connected you're going to have. And that's where that success comes in, is when you're connecting with that reader.
Yeah, you had mentioned like not everything is for everybody, you know, and it took me a long time of like maybe playing music live before I finally realized like not everybody's critique holds merit though also, because you know there's times where the one thing I'm thinking of is somebody critiqued how I played something, and it's like I just kind of want to be like, well, you can go ahead and play, and I don't play instruments, and it's like, well, then what are you doing telling me how to do what I'm doing, you know?
Exactly.
So it's
perspective, right?
Exactly. It's that perspective, and it took me years to actually see that and kind of actually take that, to realize like, oh, this is the grain of salt I'm supposed to take with some of these comments, you know, here. So
it's so true. And actually, if I may add, like for example, Lee Michaels, who is my editor, team lead and editor at Dream to Author, the one that has written and published over 120 books, 35 million. She's never been on the New York Times bestseller list, but guess what? In my mind, she should be on that list. These are, when she's writing stories that people are out there buying 35 million copies of it, you know, that speaks volumes. So I think just that perspective, you don't have to be on the New York Times bestseller. You just have to reach your target audience.
Bingo.
That's when you make that effect.
I think they were discussing that same thought process with the Oscars.
Yes.
That the Oscars like win awards for movies that nobody's even seen yet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or whatever on it. It was, and that's very true. A lot of them you're going, what?
Right.
What?
What is going on here?
Yeah. And I mean, that's another thing for everybody, you know, that grain of salt. Award shows are, you know, an award for something could be subjective in some capacity, especially when it's art like writing or things like that.
You know, the subjective, I mean, that's exactly it. That's the key word, I think, is it's not for everybody, and it is subjective. People are not gonna like everything, but if you've got your own audience, you know who you're talking to, it's gonna go well.
Mm-hmm. So we're getting close to the end here.
Yes.
As an author, as an entrepreneur, what's next for you? What's the upcoming projects? You'd mentioned you have a book coming out this week. Let's plug it one more time. What's the title?
Sure. It's write your book, let's get it done. And it really is taking a lot of my program information. It's a lot of the education to get people started, to get people to realize what they can do with their own message and the power it can have behind it, but putting it into tangible tasks and things that they can go, okay, I can write my main message. What do I want to say to my target audience? Who is my target audience? And that's one of the first lessons. And the other lesson in the very beginning is getting in that writer's mindset, making sure that you go, okay, I'm writing this. I'm going to do that. I have the confidence. I'm not going to let writer's block get in the way. I'm going to step away, and there are steps to get over writer's block, writer's reluctance. Those are two different kind of concepts. I mean, just being able to move forward with your books, setting realistic goals in your life that will cater to your daily priorities, but also allow you that creative time and uninterrupted time, I might add. We need that for that creativity. But yes, that book is going to be out, and it's to help people move forward. And then if they need an accountability partner, if they just need that extra help to really have someone review what they have, that was one thing I wish I would have had over 15 years ago. If someone just read a couple pages and told me if I'm on the right track or where I'm going, or if this makes sense, that's where we shine. That's where we can provide that service and help people through to the next level.
Absolutely. That's amazing. That's so good. I've only got one question left for you. And before we get there, is there anything we haven't mentioned in this episode so far that was something that you wanted us to touch base on?
You know, I've been so grateful to be able to meet you guys and have this opportunity. There are so many amazing stories out there, and everybody has a story. And to be able to share that story to where you're connecting with somebody and offering value, I think that's what we should be doing more and more of. And I think we're doing that on social media. You can see these stories come out and go, wow, that's kind of intriguing and interesting. Let's get a book going. If it's worthy of a book, let's do that so we can cast that net wider and make a difference in a positive way. But other than that, I'm just truly grateful because your company not only provides great services for others, that's where I appreciate the opportunity to share this too.
Cool.
I love it. Jackie Haley, author, also Dream to Author, the website. You're an entrepreneur. Check that out for sure. Got a book coming out this week as we're recording this. Should be out by now. So let's just scroll in the description section, start clicking some links. There's the links for Dream to Author. Go check it out. Check out the website. Like I said, it's nicely organized. It's easy to digest. It's a nice little website out there to kind of just see what all she's doing and what she can do for you if you want to write a book. So I got one question left for you. Can you name a time in your life where marketing impacted you and possibly didn't know it until after it was all over with?
Oh, goodness. There are so many. And the tough thing with marketing is you can't, you can't always put a number to it or a statistic to it. It's there. Sometimes it's an indirect or intangible
Very much
kind
so.
of result. So to prove and then find out, I would have one impact, I would say, would be probably with Brenda's Wish. I've had people come up to me and tell me they found my information. They found Brenda's Wish through the platform. There were newscasts in Australia, New Zealand, Japan. We had a follow-up in Tokyo, places, Netherlands, everywhere, talking about this story and what kind of impact. I had people reach out to me specifically because they've gotten that through marketing and go, I read your book and you actually hit the head on the nail and the nail on the head about what it's like to have cancer, but you haven't had cancer. And that was probably one of the most moving and touching compliments that I've ever received. Most humbling kind of comment I've had on that because having cancer, I can't imagine. And there have been, unfortunately, a lot of people that have gone through that. So I spent a lot of time on that story. It made an impact. And those comments that I've received have been very, very effective and very heartwarming.
I love it. I love it so much. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join us for this. I just want to say that, knowing that you're an author, it's really kind of cool. You've written 4 different books now, of 4 very different books.
Very different.
So you've got a fiction book, plus you wrote a sequel, which I think it's probably a whole different gear you have to shift into to write a sequel.
Next level, kind of.
And then you wrote, what did you call it? Narrative nonfiction?
Yes.
And then now you have strictly nonfiction, almost like business type book coming in here next. And I think the how-to book's going to be great for people because
I'm very excited about it.
That's basically how we're all programmed now, is to read the back of the package and, step 1, do this, step 2, do this. Everything's kind of half done for us. You just microwave the thing or you just mix it all
Plug
together.
and go, right?
I can't wait to see that book in the microwave.
Oh no, we're not microwaving
no,
books.
No.
But it's just kind of neat
Next
to say.
podcast.
It's just kind of neat to know that, like you said, maybe these people's, book ideas are kind of already started, and it's just well, what you need to do first is this, and then second is this. Yeah. It's nice that we have that step-by-step process for that. I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. So everybody scroll down below in the description, check out the links. Jackie Haley, thank you very much for taking time out of your day.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor being here.
This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital. Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market. Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at digitalagent@spinmarket.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarket.com. That's digitalagent@spinmarket.com or 515-302-8026. or visit our website at www.spinmarketwith2ks.com.